The crash landing. The night sky over rural Montana blazed with an unusual light. What locals first mistook for a meteor soon revealed itself to be something far more extraordinary. As the glowing object hurtled towards the Earth, its erratic path and slowing descent suggested an intelligence behind its movements. Miles away, in a rundown trailer park on the outskirts of Whitefish, Montana, 12-year-old Tommy Parker sat on his porch, eyes glued to the spectacle above. Unlike the adults around him who dismissed the sight as nothing more than space junk, Tommy's imagination ran wild with possibilities. Aliens, he whispered to himself, a mix of excitement and fear coursing through his veins. The object, now clearly some sort of small craft, disappeared behind a distant hill. Seconds later, a dull thud echoed across the valley, followed by an eerie silence. Tommy's heart raced. He knew he should tell someone, but who would believe him? His mom was working the night shift at the diner, and his neighbors, well, they'd just laugh it off like they always did when he talked about his sci-fi dreams. Determined to investigate, Tommy grabbed his backpack, stuffed it with a flashlight, some snacks, and his trusty Swiss Army knife. He scribbled a quick note for his mom and set off into the night, his worn sneakers crunching on the gravel road. As Tommy trekked through the wilderness, the Montana night enveloped him. The chirping of crickets and the occasional hoot of an owl accompanied his journey. He tried to keep his bearings, using the North Star as a guide just like his dad had taught him before he left. After what felt like hours of hiking, Tommy crested a hill and gasped. There, in a small clearing, lay a sleek, oval-shaped pod. Its metallic surface gleamed under the moonlight, marred by scorch marks from its fiery descent. A thin trail of smoke rose from one end, carrying an acrid smell that made Tommy wrinkle his nose. Cautiously, he approached the craft. It was unlike anything he'd ever seen, even in the most fantastical movies. The surface seemed to shimmer with an iridescent quality, changing colors slightly as he moved around it. There were no visible seams or doors, just smooth, unbroken metal. Tommy's hand trembled as he reached out to touch the pod. To his surprise, it was cool to the touch, despite its recent journey through the atmosphere. As his fingers brushed the surface, a soft humming began, and a section of the craft suddenly became transparent. Peering inside, Tommy's jaw dropped. Curled up in a form-fitting seat was a creature that was undeniably alien. It appeared unconscious, its chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. The being was humanoid, with slender limbs and delicate features. Its skin was a pale lavender color, with intricate patterns that seemed to glow faintly. A mane of silvery hair framed its face, moving slightly as if suspended in water. Tommy's mind raced. Should he try to wake the alien, call for help, run away? As he debated his next move, the alien's eyes snapped open, revealing irises that swirled with galaxies of color. For a moment, time stood still as human and alien locked gazes. Then, with a sudden movement, the transparent section of the pod slid open, and the alien tumbled out onto the grass. Tommy stumbled backward, his heart pounding. The alien tried to stand but collapsed, clearly weakened from the crash. It looked up at Tommy, and to his astonishment, spoke in a voice that sounded like chimes in the wind. "Please, help." The words weren't English, but somehow Tommy understood them perfectly. Overcoming his fear, he stepped forward and offered his hand to the alien. "It's okay," he said softly. "I won't hurt you. Can you stand?" The alien reached out, its six-fingered hand grasping Tommy's. With his help, it managed to get to its feet, swaying slightly. Up close, Tommy realized the alien was only a little taller than him, with a lithe, graceful build. "Thank you," the alien said, its voice growing stronger. "I am Zara, third princess of the Lumina Collective. I seek asylum on your world." Tommy's mind reeled. A princess. Asylum. This was way bigger than anything he'd imagined. "I'm Tommy," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Welcome to Earth, I guess. But why do you need asylum?" Zara's expression darkened, the glow of her skin patterns dimming. My world is at war. The Void Imperium seeks to conquer us, to harness our bioluminescent powers for their dark purposes. I was sent away for my protection, but my pod was damaged in the escape. I've traveled much farther than intended. As if to demonstrate, Zara held out her hand. A small orb of light formed above her palm, pulsing with energy. Tommy watched in awe as the orbs split into tiny motes that danced around them like fireflies. That's amazing, Tommy breathed. Then reality set in. But what are we going to do? You can't exactly walk into town looking like that. And if there's a war in space, won't they come looking for you? Zara nodded sullenly. You're right to be concerned. I must find a way to contact my people without alerting the Imperium to my presence. And I need to learn about your world quickly if I'm to blend in. Tommy's mind raced with possibilities. Okay, first things first. We need to hide your ship and find you some normal clothes. Then we can go to my place and figure out our next move. My mom won't be home until morning, so we've got some time. As they worked to camouflage the pod with branches and leaves, Tommy couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and trepidation. He'd always dreamed of an adventure like this, but now that it was happening, the weight of responsibility settled on his young shoulders. Zara, he said as they finished concealing the craft, I promise I'll do everything I can to help you. But you have to trust me, okay? Earth can be a dangerous place, especially for someone like you. The alien princess placed a hand on Tommy's shoulder, her touch warm and comforting. I trust you, Tommy of Earth. You've shown me kindness when you could have run away. Perhaps it was fate that brought my pod to this specific place to meet you. As they made their way back towards the trailer park, the first hints of dawn began to color the sky. Tommy knew that with the new day would come countless challenges. How would he hide an alien princess in his small trailer? How could they contact her people without alerting the authorities or these mysterious Void Imperium forces? One thing was certain, life in Whitefish, Montana would never be the same. As Zara stumbled on the uneven ground, Tommy steadied her, a protective instinct kicking in. Whatever happened next, they were in this together. And somehow, this 12-year-old boy from a trailer park would have to find the courage and ingenuity to help save not just a princess, but possibly his entire planet. The adventure had only just begun. A new world. The sun was peeking over the horizon as Tommy and Zara approached the trailer park. The alien princess looked around with wide, curious eyes, taking in the unfamiliar landscape of metal homes and scattered debris. This is where you live? Zara asked, her voice a mixture of wonder and confusion. Tommy felt a twinge of embarrassment. Yeah, it's not much, but it's home. Come on, we need to get you inside before anyone sees you. As they neared Tommy's trailer, a low growl stopped them in their tracks. From underneath a nearby rusted pickup truck, a scruffy mutt emerged, its hackles raised. Easy, Rusty, Tommy said, recognizing the stray that often hung around the park. It's just me. But Rusty's eyes were fixed on Zara, his growl intensifying. The alien princess took a step back, her skin pulsing with nervous light. Tommy quickly positioned himself between Zara and the dog. It's okay, boy. She's a friend. To both Tommy and Zara's surprise, Rusty's growl suddenly ceased. The dog tilted his head, as if listening to something they couldn't hear. Then, to Tommy's amazement, Rusty's tail began to wag. He trotted over to Zara and sat at her feet, looking up at her with adoring eyes. Zara knelt down, gently placing her hand on Rusty's head. A soft glow emanated from her palm, and Rusty closed his eyes in contentment. I don't believe it, Tommy whispered. Rusty doesn't like anyone. How did you do that? Zara smiled, scratching behind Rusty's ears. On my world, we share a deep connection with all living things. Your Earth animals seem to sense this. Rusty here has a pure heart, despite his rough exterior. Tommy shook his head in wonder. Well, looks like we've got ourselves a guard dog. Come on, let's get inside before my neighbors wake up. Once inside the cramped trailer, Tommy rummaged through his mom's closet, pulling out an oversized hoodie and sweatpants. "Here, put these on. They'll help you blend in better." As Zara changed, Tommy's mind raced with their next steps. They needed a plan, and fast. His mom would be home from her shift soon, and there was no way he could hide an alien princess in their tiny home for long. When Zara emerged from the bathroom, Tommy couldn't help but chuckle. The hoodie hung off her slender frame like a dress, and she'd pulled the hood up to cover her silvery hair. With her delicate features and glowing skin mostly hidden, she could almost pass for a normal, if unusually pale, human teenager. "How do I look?" Zara asked, twirling awkwardly. "Like a normal Earth girl who really needs a tan," Tommy replied with a grin. "Now we need to figure out how to contact your people without alerting the bad guys or, freaking out the entire human race." Zara's expression turned serious. "My pod's communication system was damaged in the crash, but perhaps we could use your world's technology to boost a signal." Tommy frowned. "I've got an old laptop, but I don't think it's exactly built for intergalactic communication." Just then Rusty, who had followed them inside, began barking at the window. Tommy rushed over, his heart sinking as he saw a black SUV with tinted windows pulling into the trailer park. "Oh no," he muttered. "I think we've got company." Zara joined him at the window, her eyes widening in fear. The Void Imperium. How could they have found me so quickly? Tommy shook his head. "I don't think it's your bad guys. Looks more like our bad guys, government agents. They must have tracked your pod's entry into the atmosphere." As they watched, several men in dark suits emerged from the vehicle, scanning the area with what looked like high-tech equipment. "We've got to get out of here," Tommy said, grabbing his backpack and stuffing it with supplies. "Is there anything you can do to, I don't know, hide your alienness?" Zara closed her eyes in concentration. Slowly, the glow of her skin dimmed until it was barely noticeable. When she opened her eyes, they had changed from their swirling galactic pattern to a more human-like hazel. "I can maintain this camouflage for a while, but it drains my energy," she explained. Tommy nodded, impressed. "That'll have to do. Come on, we'll sneak out the back." As they slipped out of the trailer's rear door, Rusty loyally at their heels, Tommy's mind whirled with possibilities. Where could they go? Who could they trust? The weight of their situation pressed down on him, but he steeled himself. He was Zara's only hope on this strange new world. They made their way through the maze of trailers, keeping low and sticking to the shadows. The sound of car doors slamming and authoritative voices calling out orders spurred them on. As they reached the edge of the park, Tommy spotted his neighbor, Old Man Jenkins, working on his ancient pickup truck. An idea struck him. "Mr. Jenkins," Tommy called out, trying to keep his voice casual. "Any chance we could get a ride into town?" "My cousin here," he gestured to Zara, "just got in and we wanted to show her around." The old man peered at them suspiciously, his gaze lingering on Zara's unusual appearance. For a moment, Tommy's heart raced, certain they'd been caught. But then Jenkins shrugged. "Hop in the back," he grunted. Was heading to the hardware store anyway. As they climbed into the truck bed, Tommy caught sight of the government agents questioning his neighbors. He ducked down, pulling Zara with him, as the pickup rumbled to life. As they bounced down the dusty road away from the trailer park, Tommy allowed himself a small sigh of relief. They'd bought themselves some time, but he knew this was just the beginning. Zara huddled close to him, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. Rusty sat loyally at their feet, his tail thumping against the truck bed. "Tommy," Zara whispered, her voice barely audible over the rumble of the engine, "thank you for risking so much to help me. I don't know what I would have done without you." Tommy managed a smile, despite his racing heart. "That's what friends do," he replied. "And like it or not, we're in this together now." As the Montana landscape rolled by, Tommy's mind churned with their next steps. They needed a safe place to hide, a way to contact Zara's people, and a plan to deal with both human and alien threats. It was a tall order for a 12-year-old boy and an alien princess, but Tommy was determined to see it through. Little did he know that their impromptu road trip was about to take them on an adventure beyond anything he could have imagined. The fate of two worlds now rested in their hands, and the clock was ticking. Unexpected allies. The old pickup truck rumbled into the small town of Whitefish, its engine sputtering as it came to a stop outside the hardware store. Tommy, Zara, and Rusty quickly hopped out of the truck bed, thanking Old Man Jenkins for the ride. "You kids stay out of trouble now," Jenkins called out as he hobbled into the store. Tommy led Zara and Rusty down the main street, his mind racing. They needed a plan, and fast. As they passed the local diner, a familiar voice called out, "Tommy, what are you doing in town so early?" Tommy froze, turning to see his mom's best friend, Sarah, stepping out of the diner. Sarah was a kind-hearted woman in her 40s who had always treated Tommy like a nephew. "Oh, hi, Sarah," Tommy stammered. "Just, showing my cousin around town." Sarah's eyes narrowed as she looked at Zara, who was doing her best to appear normal despite her alien features. "I didn't know you had a cousin visiting." Before Tommy could come up with another lie, Zara stepped forward, her voice taking on a strange accent. "Hello, I'm Zara. I'm visiting from Canada. Tommy's been so kind to show me around." Sarah's suspicion seemed to fade, replaced by a warm smile. "Well, isn't that nice? You two must be hungry. Why don't you come in for some breakfast? My treat." Tommy was about to decline when he realized this might be their best chance to regroup and plan their next move. Plus, he was starving. "That would be great, Sarah. Thanks." As they settled into a booth, Rusty curling up under the table, Tommy noticed Zara's fascination with everything around her. She marveled at the laminated menu, the salt and pepper shakers, even the vinyl seats. "So, Zara," Sarah said as she poured them some orange juice, "how are you liking Montana so far?" Zara's eyes widened, but she quickly composed herself. "It's very different from home, but beautiful. The sky here is so vast." Sarah chuckled. "That's why they call it Big Sky Country. Now, what do you have? The pancakes here are out of this world." As Sarah walked away to place their order, Tommy leaned in close to Zara. "We need to figure out our next move. We can't keep running forever." Zara nodded, her expression serious. "I've been thinking. My people have technology that can interface with almost any communications system. If we could find a powerful enough transmitter, I might be able to send a message to my homeworld." Tommy's eyes lit up. "The radio station. There's an old radio station just outside of town. It's been abandoned for years, but the transmitter might still work." Their conversation was interrupted as Sarah returned with heaping plates of pancakes, eggs, and bacon. As they ate, Tommy couldn't help but notice how Zara examined each bite with wonder, as if experiencing flavors for the first time. Suddenly, the diner's door burst open, and two men in dark suits entered. Tommy's heart sank as he recognized them from the trailer park. Government agents. "Excuse me," one of the agents addressed the diner at large, holding up a photo. "We're looking for two juveniles, possibly accompanied by a dog. Has anyone seen them?" Tommy and Zara exchanged panicked looks. Sarah, noticing their distress, stepped between them and the agents. "Now, gentlemen," she said firmly, "I don't know what this is about, but you're disturbing my customers. Unless you have a warrant, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." The agents hesitated, clearly not expecting resistance. As they argued with Sarah, Tommy grabbed Zara's hand. "Come on," he whispered. "Back door." They slipped out of the booth, Rusty following close behind. As they reached the back door, Tommy heard Sarah's voice rise. "Well, I never. If this is how the government treats law-abiding citizens, maybe it's time for a change." Her distraction worked. Tommy, Zara, and Rusty burst out into the alley behind the diner, hearts pounding. "We need to get to that radio station," Zara said urgently. Tommy nodded, leading them through back alleys and side streets. As they reached the outskirts of town, the old radio station came into view. Its rusted tower stood against the sky, a relic of a bygone era. As they approached the dilapidated building, a voice called out from behind them. "Hold it right there." They turned to see one of the government agents, gun drawn. "You two are coming with me. This little chase is over." Tommy stepped in front of Zara protectively. "We haven't done anything wrong." The agent's expression softened slightly. "Look, kid, I don't know what you think is going on, but that girl isn't who you think she is. She's dangerous." Zara, realizing the futility of maintaining her disguise, let her camouflage drop. Her skin began to glow, and her eyes swirled with galaxies. The agent stumbled back in shock. "You're right," Zara said, her voice resonating with power. "I'm not who you think I am, but I'm not dangerous. I'm a refugee, seeking help from your world." The agent's gun wavered, uncertainty clear on his face. What are you?" Before Zara could answer, a blinding light filled the sky. A massive ship, sleek and otherworldly, descended from the clouds. Tommy's jaw dropped as he realized this must be a ship from Zara's homeworld. The ship hovered above them, a beam of light engulfing Zara. Her feet lifted off the ground as she began to rise towards the ship. "Tommy," she called out, reaching for him. "Come with me. My people can protect you." Tommy hesitated for a split second, looking between Zara and the stunned government agent. Then, with a deep breath, he grabbed Zara's hand. Rusty leaped into his arms, and together they were lifted into the alien ship. As they ascended, Tommy caught one last glimpse of his small town below. The agent stood watching, his gun lowered, a look of awe on his face. The ship's doors closed around them, and Tommy felt a surge of exhilaration and fear. He had just left everything he knew behind. But as he looked at Zara, her grateful smile warming his heart, he knew he had made the right choice. Their adventure was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. As the ship accelerated into the stars, Tommy realized that he was no longer just a small-town boy. He was now part of something much bigger, a bridge between two worlds. Journey to the stars. The alien ship hummed with energy as it broke through Earth's atmosphere. Tommy, still clutching Rusty, stared wide-eyed at the rapidly shrinking blue marble that was his home planet. Zara stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder, offering silent support. "I can't believe I just did that," Tommy whispered, a mix of exhilaration and fear in his voice. Zara squeezed his shoulder gently. "You've shown incredible bravery, Tommy. My people will honor your sacrifice." Before Tommy could respond, a door slid open behind them. Two tall, elegant beings entered, their skin shimmering with the same bioluminescence as Zara's. They bowed deeply to the princess. "Your Highness," one of them said, their voice melodious and otherworldly. "We've been searching for you since your pod went off course. The Lumina Collective rejoices at your safe return." Zara straightened, her demeanor changing subtly. Tommy realized he was seeing the princess side of her for the first time. "Thank you, Lyra. This is Tommy and his companion, Rusty. They are under my protection and are to be treated as honored guests." Lyra and her companion exchanged curious glances, but nodded in agreement. "Of course, Your Highness. We've prepared quarters for you and your guests. We'll be reaching the flagship in approximately 6 Earth hours." As they were led through the ship's gleaming corridors, Tommy marveled at the advanced technologies surrounding them. Holographic displays flickered with alien script, and gravity seemed to shift subtly as they moved. Their quarters were spacious and comfortable, with large windows offering a breathtaking view of the stars. As soon as the door closed behind them, Zara's regal facade dropped, and she flopped onto one of the soft, pulsating chairs with a sigh. "I'm sorry, Tommy," she said, her voice tinged with guilt. "I know I've taken you away from everything you know. If you want to go back, I'm sure we can arrange." "No way," Tommy interrupted, surprised by his own conviction. "I made my choice. Besides, how many kids from Whitefish, Montana get to see the galaxy? Zara smiled, her bioluminescence pulsing gently. There will be fear and wonder in equal measure, I imagine. But your people are shown incredible potential. I believe this will be the beginning of a beautiful alliance. The day of first contact arrived with great fanfare. The Lumina fleet, led by their flagship, entered Earth's orbit in a dazzling display of lights. As news of their arrival spread across the globe, Tommy found himself center stage once again. Standing before a panel of hastily assembled world leaders, broadcast to billions around the world, Tommy introduced Princess Zara and the Lumina Collective. He spoke of the battle against the Void Imperium, of the wonders he'd seen, and of the incredible potential that lay in cooperation between Earth and the stars. We're not alone in the universe, he concluded, Rusty sitting faithfully by his side. And that's not something to fear. It's something to celebrate. We have so much to learn from each other, so much to explore together. As humanity took its first steps into the galactic community, changes swept across the planet. New technologies were shared, cultural exchanges began, and the petty conflicts that had divided nations began to seem insignificant in the face of the vast cosmos. But amidst all the excitement and rapid change, Tommy found himself longing for home. Zara, ever perceptive, noticed his melancholy. "You miss your family," she said softly one day. Tommy nodded, scratching Rusty behind the ears. "Yeah, don't get me wrong, this has been amazing. But home is home," Zara finished for him. "I understand. It's time we got you back to Montana." The return to Whitefish was a surreal experience. The small town had become the center of global attention, with reporters and curious onlookers filling the streets. But as the Lumina ship touched down in a field just outside town, all Tommy could focus on was the familiar figure running towards him. "Mom," he cried, racing down the ship's ramp. They collided in a tearful embrace, Rusty barking joyfully around them. The battle begins. The Lumina ship shuddered as the first volley from the Void Imperium fleet struck their shields. Tommy stumbled, catching himself on a nearby console. Rusty whined, pressing close to his legs. Shields at 80%, a crew member called out. "We can't withstand this barrage for long, Captain." The captain, a tall Lumina with intricate light patterns swirling across her skin, turned to Zara. "Your Highness, we need to retreat. We're outnumbered and outgunned." Zara shook her head firmly. "No. If we run now, we'll lead them straight to our homeworld. We need to make a stand here." Tommy's mind raced. He might not know anything about space battles, but he knew about underdogs fighting against impossible odds. "What if we could even the playing field?" he suggested. All eyes on the bridge turned to him. Tommy swallowed hard but pressed on. "On Earth, we have stories about small forces defeating much larger ones by using the environment to their advantage. Is there anything around here we could use?" The captain's eyes widened. "The Cerulean Nebula. It's not far from our position. The energy discharges could disrupt the Void ship's systems. But it would affect our systems too," Zara pointed out. Tommy grinned. "Yeah, but we know it's coming. They won't." The captain nodded, a spark of hope in her eyes. "Helms, set course for the Cerulean Nebula, maximum speed." The ship lurched as it changed direction, narrowly avoiding another barrage from the Void fleet. The viewscreen filled with a breathtaking vista of swirling blue gases and newborn stars. "Void ships in pursuit," the tactical officer reported. "They're gaining on us." Zara closed her eyes, concentrating. Suddenly, her skin began to glow brighter, pulsing with energy. "I can help," she said, her voice strained. "My bioluminescent powers, I can use them to boost our shields temporarily." As Zara's light intensified, the ship's energy readings spiked. They plunged into the nebula, the gases outside churning violently. "Brace for impact," the captain shouted. Tommy hugged Rusty close as the ship shuddered and groaned. Sparks flew from consoles, and the lights flickered ominously. But they held together. Behind them, the void ships weren't so lucky. Unprotected by Zara's power, their systems overloaded. Several smaller ships spiraled out of control, colliding with each other in brilliant explosions. It worked. Tommy cheered, humping his fist in the air. But their victory was short-lived. The Void Lord's flagship, massive and menacing, emerged from the nebula mostly unscathed. "Foolish children," the Void Lord's voice boomed through the ship's speakers. "Did you really think your primitive tricks could defeat us? Prepare to be annihilated." The dark ship's weapon ports began to glow with an ominous purple light. Tommy's heart sank. They were out of options, outmatched and cornered. But then Rusty began to bark. It wasn't his usual playful bark, but something deeper, more primal. The sound reverberated through the ship, seeming to grow in intensity. To everyone's amazement, the nebula around them began to react. The gases swirled faster, and arcs of energy danced between newborn stars. The Void Lord's ship suddenly found itself bombarded by intense energy discharges. "Impossible," the Void Lord screeched, his image on the viewscreen distorting. "What manner of weapon is this?" Tommy knelt beside Rusty, scratching the dog's ears. "It's not a weapon," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "It's life, something you Void guys don't understand." Zara stepped forward, her glow intensifying to match Rusty's barks. "The Lumina have always known that life and light are connected, but we never imagined. Tommy, I think your dog is tapping into the life force of the nebula itself." The Void ship's attacks weakened as it struggled against the nebula's fury. Zara turned to the captain. "Now's our chance. Can we send a message to the Lumina fleet?" The communications officer nodded. "The nebula's clearing enough for a short-range transmission." Zara straightened, her voice ringing with authority. "This is Princess Zara of the Lumina Collective. We found a weakness in the Void Imperium's defenses. All available ships converge on our position. Today, we take back our galaxy." As the message was sent, Tommy felt a swell of pride. He, a kid from small-town Montana, was helping to turn the tide in an intergalactic war. But a part of him also ached for home, for the simple life he'd left behind. Zara, sensing his conflicted emotions, placed a hand on his shoulder. "Tommy, I can't thank you enough for what you've done, but I need to ask you one more thing. Will you stand with us in the battle to come? Your unique perspective, your humanity, it could make all the difference." Tommy looked at Rusty, still barking his defiance at the stars, then back to Zara. He thought of his mom back on Earth, probably sick with worry. He thought of Old Man Jenkins and Sarah from the diner, of his small town that now seemed so far away. But he also thought of the wonders he'd seen, the difference he'd made. He thought of the Void Lord's cruelty and the Lumina's light, and he knew in that moment that his adventure was far from over. "I'm in," he said, his voice steady. "Let's save the galaxy." As if in response to his declaration, the viewscreen lit up with new arrivals. Dozens of Lumina ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their organic shapes a stark contrast to the Void Imperium's dark vessels. The battle for the stars was about to truly begin, and at its heart stood an unlikely trio, an alien princess, a human boy, and a dog from Earth, united in their stand against the darkness. The turning tide. The space around the Cerulean Nebula erupted into chaos as the Lumina fleet engaged the Void Imperium ships. Beams of light clashed with dark energy projectiles, creating a dazzling and terrifying spectacle. Tommy, Zara, and Rusty watched from the bridge of their ship, now at the center of the massive space battle. The captain barked orders, coordinating with the newly arrived Lumina vessels. "We need to press our advantage," Zara said, her voice filled with determination. "The Void ships are still affected by the nebula's energy. If we can keep them off balance, we might have a chance." Tommy nodded, an idea forming. "What if we could amplify what Rusty did earlier? Use the nebula's life force against them on a larger scale?" The captain turned to them, intrigued. "It's possible, but we'd need a way to channel that energy across the entire battlefield." Zara's eyes lit up. The Lumina Resonance Network. If we can link all our ships together, we could create a massive energy web. As the Lumina crew worked to implement their plan, Tommy knelt beside Rusty. "You ready for your big moment, boy?" The dog woofed softly, tail wagging. Suddenly, the ship rocked violently. Alarms blared as a massive void cruiser loomed on the view screen. "Void boarders detected," a crew member shouted. "They've breached the lower decks." The captain turned to Zara. "Your Highness, you need to get to safety. Take the Earth beings with you." But Zara stood her ground. "No, my place is here with my people. Tommy, Rusty, stay close to me." As if on cue, the bridge doors burst open. Towering void soldiers poured in, their armor seeming to absorb the light around them. Lumina crew members engaged them in combat, beams of light clashing against dark energy weapons. Tommy's heart raced as he watched the battle unfold. He felt helpless, a kid caught in the middle of an alien war. But then he saw Rusty, hackles raised, facing down a void soldier without fear. Inspired by his dog's courage, Tommy grabbed a fallen Lumina's light staff. The weapon hummed to life in his hands, responding to his touch. "Tommy, be careful," Zara called out, her hands glowing as she fended off attackers. A void soldier lunged at Tommy, but years of dodging bullies in school hallways paid off. He ducked under the alien's swing and jabbed with the light staff. To his surprise, the weapon connected, sending the soldier stumbling back. Rusty seized the opportunity, leaping at the disoriented void being. His bark, amplified by the lingering energy of the nebula, sent the soldier crushing into his comrades. The tide of the battle on the bridge began to turn. The Lumina, bolstered by the unexpected assistance from Tommy and Rusty, pushed back against the void boarders. Amidst the chaos, Zara's voice rang out. "The resonance network is ready. Tommy, we need Rusty." Understanding instinctively what needed to be done, Tommy knelt beside his faithful companion. "Okay, boy, just like before, bark for all you're worth." As Rusty let out a mighty howl, Zara placed her glowing hands on the dog's back. The energy of her bioluminescence merged with Rusty's bark, creating a shockwave of pure life force. The effect was immediate and stunning. The energy pulsed through the Lumina ships, forming a vast, shimmering web across the battlefield. Void ships caught in its embrace sputtered and went dark, their life-draining technology rendered useless. On the view screen, they watched as void cruisers fell out of formation, drifting helplessly in space. Smaller ships exploded as their dark energy cores overloaded. The Void Lord's voice, now tinged with desperation, boomed across the communication channels. "This is impossible. How can primitives and light dwellers defeat the power of the void?" Tommy stepped forward, standing tall despite his fear. Because life always finds a way. Light always pushes back the darkness. That's something we know pretty well on Earth. Zara joined him, her voice regal and commanding. "Void Lord, your invasion is over. Surrender now, or face total defeat." For a long moment, silence reigned across the battlefield. Then, one by one, the remaining void ships powered down their weapons. A cheer went up across the Lumina fleet. They had won. Against all odds, the combined forces of Lumina ingenuity, Earth's unpredictability, and the raw power of life itself had turned the tide an intergalactic war. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Tommy sank to the floor, exhausted. Rusty padded over, resting his head on Tommy's lap. Zara knelt beside them, her glow softening. "You did it, Tommy," she said softly. "You and Rusty, you saved us all." Tommy managed a tired smile. "We did it together, all of us." He looked around the bridge, at the Lumina crew who now regarded him with a mixture of awe and gratitude. "So what happens now?" Zara's expression turned thoughtful. "Now we rebuild. And I think it's time for the Lumina Collective to make official first contact with Earth. Your world has proven itself more than ready to join the galactic community." As the Lumina ships began the process of securing void prisoners and assessing damage, Tommy gazed out at the stars. His simple life in Montana felt like a distant dream now. He had seen wonders beyond imagination, faced fears he never knew existed, and played a part in saving an entire civilization. But as exciting as this new frontier was, a part of him ached for home. For his mom's hugs, the smell of pine trees, and the simple pleasure of watching the sun set over the mountains. As if reading his thoughts, Zara placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Don't worry, Tommy. Once things settle down, we'll make sure you and Rusty get home safely. And who knows? Maybe you'll be Earth's first official ambassador to the stars." Tommy grinned at the thought. Whatever came next, he knew his life would never be the same. And as Rusty wagged his tail and the stars twinkled beyond the view screen, he realized he wouldn't have it any other way. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and humanity had just taken its first real step into that great unknown. All thanks to a boy, a dog, and the incredible friends they made along the way. A new dawn. As the dust settled from the epic battle, the Lumina fleet regrouped around their flagship. Tommy, Zara, and Rusty found themselves at the center of attention, hailed as the unlikely heroes who had turned the tide against the Void Imperium. In the days that followed, Tommy watched in awe as the Lumina began the process of establishing peace. The defeated Void ships were corralled, their crews taken into custody. But rather than seek revenge, the Lumina offered rehabilitation, believing that even beings of darkness could learn to embrace the light. Zara, now fully embracing her role as a leader, spent long hours in diplomatic meetings. She insisted on having Tommy present, valuing his unique perspective. If we're to build lasting peace, she explained to her advisors, we need to understand different viewpoints. Tommy and Earth have much to teach us. For his part, Tommy found himself becoming an impromptu ambassador for humanity. He fielded countless questions about Earth culture, history, and biology. Rusty became a celebrity in his own right, with many Lumina fascinated by the concept of pets and the deep bond between humans and animals. As the Lumina prepared to make official first contact with Earth, Tommy felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. "How do you think they'll react?" he asked Zara one evening as they stood in the ship's observatory, gazing at the distant speck that was his home planet. Zara smiled, relief evident on her face. Rusty, who had been exploring their new surroundings, trotted over and placed his head on her lap. She scratched behind his ears, eliciting a contented whine from the dog. "So," Tommy said, settling into another chair, "what happens now? Are we going to your homeworld?" Zara's expression turned serious. "Not directly. We're heading to the flagship of the Lumina fleet. The war with the Void Imperium has escalated, and my people are gathering their forces. My return could be a turning point." Tommy felt a chill run down his spine. He had almost forgotten about the galactic conflict that had brought Zara to Earth in the first place. "Is there anything I can do to help?" Zara looked at him thoughtfully. "Actually, there might be. The Void Imperium's power comes from their ability to manipulate dark energy. But your presence here has given me an idea. Humans have something we Lumina lack: unpredictability." Before she could elaborate, an alarm blared through the ship. Red lights pulsed along the walls, and a voice spoke in an alien language that somehow Tommy could understand. "Attention all crew. Void Imperium ships detected. Prepare for possible engagement." Tommy's heart raced as Zara sprang to her feet. "We need to get to the bridge," she said urgently. "Come on." They raced through the corridors, Rusty hot on their heels. Crew members rushed past them, all focused on their emergency stations. When they reached the bridge, a scene of controlled chaos greeted them. A massive view screen dominated the front of the room, showing a swarm of ominous black ships approaching. Their design was all sharp angles and menacing spikes, a stark contrast to the smooth, organic lines of the Lumina vessel. "Your Highness," the ship's captain said as they entered, "you shouldn't be here. It's not safe." Zara ignored the warning, moving to stand before the view screen. Open a channel to the Void Fleet, she commanded. The captain hesitated for a moment, then nodded to a communications officer. The screen flickered, and a face appeared that made Tommy's blood run cold. The being was humanoid, but its skin was a deep, light-absorbing black. Its eyes glowed with an eerie purple light, and when it spoke, its voice seemed to echo from the void itself. "Ah, the lost princess returns," the being said, its tone mocking. "How kind of you to deliver yourself to us. Your bioluminescent powers will serve the Imperium well." Zara stood tall, her voice unwavering. "You will never harness our light for your dark purposes, Void Lord. The Lumina Collective stands united against you." The Void Lord's laughter sent shivers down Tommy's spine. "United, you're one small ship against our armada. Surrender now, and we may spare your crew." Tommy, driven by an impulse he couldn't explain, stepped forward to stand beside Zara. Rusty growled low in his throat, hackles raised. The Void Lord's eyes widened in surprise. "What's this? You've brought a primitive with you. How quaint." "This primitive helped me escape your forces on his world," Zara said, a hint of pride in her voice. "Humanity may be young, but they have a strength you can't comprehend." As if to emphasize her point, Rusty let out a loud, defiant bark. The sound echoed through the bridge and across the communication channel. To everyone's astonishment, the Void Lord flinched. "What sorcery is this?" The dark being hissed, genuine fear in its glowing eyes. Tommy, emboldened by the Void Lord's reaction, spoke up. "It's not sorcery, it's a dog, and if that scares you, you have no idea what humans are capable of." The Void Lord's image flickered, its composure clearly shaken. This changes nothing. Prepare to be boarded." As the communication cut off, the bridge erupted into action. The captain began barking orders, preparing for the imminent attack. Zara turned to Tommy, her eyes shining with a mix of fear and hope. "I think we just found our secret weapon against the Void Imperium. Are you ready for a crash course in galactic diplomacy?" Tommy gulped but nodded firmly. "Ready as I'll ever be. Let's show these space bullies what Earth is made of." As the Void ships closed in, Tommy, Zara, and Rusty stood united on the bridge. They were an unlikely trio, a human boy, an alien princess, and a loyal dog, but in that moment, they represented the best hope for peace in the galaxy. The battle for the stars was about to begin, and Earth had unexpectedly joined the fray. "Oh, Tommy," his mother sobbed, holding him tight. "I was so worried. But look at you, my little boy, the hero." As they caught up, sharing stories and tears, Zara approached. She had opted for a more human appearance to avoid causing a stir. "Mrs. Parker," she said warmly, "your son is an extraordinary individual. He's taught us so much." Tommy's mom looked between her son and the alien princess, a mix of emotions playing across her face. Finally, she smiled. "Well, I guess I better put on some coffee. Sounds like we have a lot to talk about." In the days that followed, life in Whitefish slowly found a new normal. Tommy returned to school, now something of a celebrity among his peers, but he found that his experiences had changed him. The bullies who once seemed so intimidating now seemed small and insignificant compared to the wonders he'd seen. Zara and a small Lumina delegation remained on Earth, working with world leaders to ease humanity's transition into the galactic community. She made frequent visits to Whitefish, often joining Tommy and his mom for dinner. As for Rusty, the heroic dog enjoyed his newfound fame, basking in extra treats and belly rubs from admirers around town. He seemed equally at home chasing squirrels in the backyard or landing on the deck of a luminous starship. One evening, as Tommy sat on his porch watching the sunset, Zara joined him. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Being back home after everything you've seen." Tommy thought for a moment, absently petting Rusty. "It's different," he admitted. "Sometimes I look up at the stars and can hardly believe what we went through. But then I look around at my mom, my town, and I remember why it was all worth it." Zara nodded, her eyes twinkling. You know, the Lumina are establishing an Earth embassy. We'll need liaison officers, people who understand both worlds. Someone like you, perhaps? Tommy grinned, excitement bubbling up inside him. Are you offering me a job, Your Highness? Let's call it an internship for now, Zara laughed. After all, you do need to finish school first. As they sat there, human and alien, watching the sky darken and the first stars appear, Tommy felt a profound sense of peace. His great adventure might have come to an end, but he knew it was really just the beginning. The universe was vast and full of wonders, dangers, and possibilities. And thanks to an unlikely friendship between a boy, a dog, and an alien princess, humanity was ready to take its place among the stars. Rusty barked softly, as if in agreement, and Tommy smiled. Whatever the future held, they would face it together. For in the end, that's what truly mattered, the bonds of friendship, loyalty, and love that transcended the boundaries of worlds and species. As the first luminous ships twinkled in the night sky, heralding a new era for Earth, Tommy Parker, once just a small-town boy, now a bridge between worlds, looked to the future with hope and wonder. The adventure, it seemed, was only just beginning.